Pick a Side Nation, how you doing today? This is your host James Finley with the Pick a Side podcast. Thank you so very much for joining in and all the support you guys have given the show. Today we have two wonderful individuals coming in for our interview. Time is running out. Yes, we're getting close to November the 3rd, where we need everyone to get out and vote, 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 vote. And today we have Miss Maggi Espada-Hernandez, as well as bringing back one of our old faces, Gary Schwartz, back into the lab to discuss all these things that's going on, with the president catching COVID-19 to the failed kidnap attempt for the governor of not only Michigan but Virginia. So much that we were able to discuss. Hope you sit back and enjoy and take it all in. Thank you so very much for always tuning in to the podcast. Hope that you enjoy. Take care. Bye-bye. And a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is James Finley with the Pick a Side podcast, and welcome back to the lab, everyone, Pick a Side Nation. Today we have a very special show today. Normally I only have one guest, but today I have two. I have been blessed to have Gary Schwartz back coming into the lab, and today we have Maggi Hernandez coming into the lab as well, and we certainly want to thank both of them coming in. We have some topics that's hot on the table that we want to talk about. First of all, since Gary has already been a part of the show, I want to introduce you all to Maggi Hispana Hernandez. yeah, I can't say it like you can, but we want to welcome you to the show and let everyone know a little bit about your background, a little bit, and what you're doing, and talk about that fabulous magazine that you have going on.
Thank you for having me, Gary and James. I
Sure.
appreciate the invitation. Well, basically, I have been out in I'm from the East Coast, and I have been out in California for, over 20 years. And I've been involved in the community and it just brought me to create this magazine, which I had sitting for about 2 years, and then it just flourished, with everything going on. The magazine itself is actually named after my mother, and the name just fits so perfectly that it just means light, it means nurturing, and that's what we need right now. So it's called Onelia Magazine. And I hope everybody just go and, subscribe and support the magazine, because we highlight beautiful cultures. And within that, we try to help the music industry as well as try to highlight some artists that, that need work, businesses that need promotion. And within that, it still is nurturing, the system of people that are in need, basically, and just get them out there and promote them. So I love it. I've been, doing this, and I've been organizing events before this, and it's bringing people together again. And this is a way to actually tell, just give people information about people's background and not be so judgmental as far as, just looking at somebody and already putting a judgment on it without knowing the culture of it. The first magazine was actually, I highlighted China because of everything that was going on. The beauty of China and the blame that, that they've gone through, the racism that they've gone through here in the United States, it was appalling. So I just didn't even mention, slightly mention the COVID, but in addition, I created this atmosphere of just the beauty of what China is about. So that's what I'm trying to do.
That's great. That's great. How ironic that you're from the East Coast and you moved out here to California, and Gary is from the West Coast and he moved out there to the East Coast.
We switched places.
You guys flip-flopped. I'm hoping that Gary can come to his senses and come back out here on the West Coast.
I'm still a Lakers fan.
I'm still a Lakers fan. We're still look at that. So we're still kind of on cloud nine with what the Lakers did the other day. So let's dive on into it. While we have some time. So as I mentioned to you guys off air, we have some events that's been going on lately, and I'm quite sure that we're all on the same page in regards to the president of the United States of America. So, over the past few days, the president contracted COVID-19, and I'm quite sure my Facebook page, my social media outlets, everybody had an opinion on this. You had some people that thought he didn't have it and that it was going to be a hoax. It was a whole lot of different opinions going on there. I think, Gary, you saw a lot of it as well on Facebook and what have you. But I think the thing that I was hoping that was going to come from all this was that it was finally going to hit home. And I don't feel like it hit home. I felt like he's done more harm now with this whole situation than he's done good. So, Gary, why don't you come in and elaborate on that, and what's your feelings on that, and we'll get Maggie's opinion on that as well.
Perhaps you were a little bit more optimistic than I was that he would change him. Yeah. I mean, I originally thought perhaps when he becomes president of the United States, during that time, he would at least reach out to the other half of America, if you will, yeah, like every other president's done, Republican and Democrat. But he didn't. And so I had no faith that he would this time. I didn't believe it was a hoax at the beginning. And I did get a lot of people saying, oh, it's a hoax.
Yeah.
It's funny. After he was, came out of Walter Reed and everything, I started wondering, could it be a hoax? But then I'm not a conspiracy believer myself, and it would just take too many people. But that said, his recklessness and his just, it's unfathomable how he cannot just step back and see how many people are dying from this. And literally, as you probably saw yesterday on the news, a couple of people were like, hey, if President Trump said wear a mask, I would wear a mask. And so he knows he's got the simple power, just tell the people to wear masks, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And so it just boggles my mind. I will add this one thing, and you and I know we played ball in high school, right? And I think we've each seen people on steroids. And I'm not saying this, I'm not a doctor, I'm not suggesting anything, but it's consistent with my observations of seeing people firsthand on steroids, the euphoric feeling almost like, and you saw him. And so I am, again, as a layperson, I'm not a professional, I'm not suggesting otherwise. I think it's something to really look at. He's behaving very differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Maggie?
Well, I think Gary was really nice, not saying it was a hoax. I think it's a scam. I think they're planning something. Like, I feel, but they're not the victim. They've been putting things in its place, lying about things, and then, what are you going to do about it? Basic attitude, and what are you going to do about it? Really nothing, because the Senate, they control everything, right? So it's really, they know that they have that power. So putting these things out and, the circle around them having COVID, I feel like I'm waiting for the answer to why this has happened. It's obvious they've been out there and exposed. Okay, that's possible, but it's also possible that their lies, you can't trust what they're saying. So it's really, really heartbreaking because there are a lot of people, like Gary says, accepting all he has to do is say, wear a mask, and they wear a mask. Just this morning, I had to put out say something about wearing a mask just this morning, because it was somebody saying, you just wait 10 days and you'll be fine. No, you don't pick and choose, you're not a doctor. You don't pick and choose who can wear a mask and who can't. That's ridiculous. And the sense of trying to get the businesses to open up and then you don't abide by a simple rule, it's just hypocrisy. So that's my point.
Well, it all comes from the top.
Exactly.
If you have your own business and if you have employees, the message comes from the top. everyone else has to abide by the rules and regulations of the land of that particular office. Here we have a president where he's totally disregarded science, and
Mhm.
they even had they the last administration, Obama administration, they had a team of doctors and scientists and things where pandemics like this would happen. They had people in place that would be able to handle that, and they disbanded that whole entire staff and positions. When he became the president. But Gary, I want to touch something on the steroids type of thing.
Mhm.
My mother had a very terminal illness as I grew up, and there was always a timetable put on as to how long she would live. And but about once a month, my mother would go to the doctor on a Thursday, and she would get a steroid shot.
Mhm.
And my mother, for like 3 to 4 days, would feel incredible. It was
Yeah.
like she could conquer the whole world, and she would look forward to those days. Everything she would do in her life, she scheduled around when she would get that steroid shot, because she knew she would have physically, she would be able to do everything during that particular time. But the down part about it is that when it would wear off, oh my God,
Mhm.
it was not a pretty sight. I would always ask her, doctor, why can't you just get us to her all the time? Because I just want to see my mother healthy, but you can't do that with steroids. So
Right.
it's a mockery when we have the leader of the free world who is making a mockery out of something where we've had over 218,000 people who have died. No one is ever going to. I don't think, Gary. I don't think you, Maggie. I don't think that if something happened to us, we're not gonna get airlifted over to Cedar Sinai Hospital or Mount Sinai out in New York. We're not gonna get airlifted to any of those hospitals. We're not going to get the finest of drugs or trial drugs that you think. None of us are going to get that. We're going to get the very simplest things, abiding to what our status is. And I just think that is extremely cold-hearted that you get up here and you get in front of thousands of people talking about, hey, I'm immune, I'm cured, and this and that. I can just kiss all of you. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. What's your thoughts, Gary?
You know, absolutely. And what's worse almost is it's bad enough, but it's that the people trust him. Certain, his
Oh,
base trusts him, and it's very cultish. It's like, okay, well, he's fine. And he even admitted, I had 14 doctors around me. And he was talking about, it's like, no one has 14 doctors.
Exactly.
Okay, maybe the commander in chief of the United States, but they don't make the connection.
Mhm.
It's almost like David Koresh. I hate to say,
yeah,
remember Waco,
yeah,
and just
Waco.
it's this belief. And I would say this because I'm a student of history, and to me, it goes back to authoritarian regimes and how they start. And it's, first of all, the press is the enemy of the people,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And then it's dismissing and sidelining intellectuals. So he's sidelining the preeminent doctors and scientists in the United States, like Dr. Fauci and others, and instead he's selecting these kind of almost puppets. And even though they're doctors, and so I respect that, they're not epidemiologists.
No,
It's just,
no.
it's very ridiculous. And so I'm very careful having, I'm first generation American. And I think we talked about this last time. I had, relatives of mine, my father escaped the Nazis in 1939. And so I'm very careful to compare anything to Adolf Hitler or Nazi Germany. And I'm not comparing it. We don't have concentration camps. We don't have a Holocaust. So I'm not trying to suggest that. What I am suggesting is the early 30s, the way Hitler came to power, and the way there was not a majority of the people, the Germans, supporting Hitler. I believe it was around 27 to 37%. the highest he ever got in support. But when you start eroding the institutions and you start sidelining the press and having people question, that's where he opens up all the gaslighting. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, part of it is like, I'm going to tell you what it is and I don't care because there's not going to be any repercussions. And part of it is like, hey, do you see that wall? It's black, but it's really green. Like literally people like, he's gaslighting. Anyway, that was a bad analogy, but you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Maggie, I want to address this to you, as a female, this president, to me, I try to give everyone an opportunity, whether Republican or Democrat. And when back in 2014, 15, when all these Republicans were going through the different primaries and the debates and this and that, and I was like, okay, let's give everyone hear what they have to say. And when he won that particular primary, when he made fun of the handicapped person, that did it for me. I said, I'm done. So as a female, and you've heard a lot of the offensive things that he has said, what do you think is going on with the female that supports him? What is your thoughts on that?
I'm disgusted. I'm really disgusted. The fact that, yes, we have a lot of people in both sides that have engaged in disrespectful acts, but to actually be on TV in front of our children and displaying that kind of disrespect towards women. My main issue, I just want to give a shout out to Knockout Abuse West and Exodus Cry. These two organizations are fighting desperately to close down MindGeek and Pornhub. There's a history there with what's happening to violence against women.
Yeah.
And everything that he stands for is violence against women. The fact that he has been accused of raping a child,
Yep.
that has been buried. Threats to the family of that child to shut them down. That is not in the media. And I'm crazy annoyed by that, because that should be upfront all the time. These are our children. These are people that he's been, excuse me, in a circle of Epstein, and now, it's really softening, that aspect of sex trafficking.
Yeah.
He's involved with that. He is a key player in that. And for me, that is the utmost reason I will never vote for a person like that, even if it's in either side,
Right.
And I have friends that are Republican, they're going to vote for him. And I'm just appalled by that. But at the same time, their reasoning is religion. Okay, let's look at that as religion, in a female, right? Let's look at that.
Yeah.
The display of everything that he stands for is not part of religion, or following a religion, or kindness, or compassion, or being homophobic, or any of that. So it's really incomprehensible as far as trying to understand the following. For me, I think is just racism.
Yeah.
That's what it stands for. There's no
Maggie, I am so glad that you're on here today, because for the longest, when both Bushes were running for office, I have friends that voted for George Bush Sr. and the son. I had no problem. Okay, fine, you voted for him, fine. But with inside of me, when I see people that support Trump, it's a different feeling that I have towards those individuals now. And I have a very hard time trying to shake it off of me, because listen, I tell everyone, that was my president, President George Bush, his son. That was my president. I have respect for them. This particular president right here, I have zero zero respect for him. Now, it's a whole lot of other people with my skin color that feels the same way that I do. Then we have some other folks in my skin color, Gary, as you and I have spoken of, that they are drinking that juice that he puts out there. I think all of us are old enough to remember back in the 70s, there was a gentleman back in Jamestown, Jim Jones. You remember that?
Yep, in
when,
Guyana.
when all these where all these people just flocked, and a lot of them from up north in the Bay Area of California, where they flocked all the way over here, and they followed that man all the way to the ground. And I feel as though Trump is the type of president. Trump wants to be just like North Korea. He wants to be. He wants to be like Russia. He wants to be like China, and I think that, as you were going back to China, I think that China has so much more sense than what we give them credit for. But I'm just very appalled that you have so many people following this man, and it's like, my God, what are we coming to? So Gary, what do you think about all that?
I mean, it's from what Maggie was saying. I mean, the guy. I feel very much like you when it comes to George W. Bush and his father and everything. And I didn't vote for them, but I have no problem. They were my president and everything. But Donald Trump's a misogynist. He's a racist. He's a homophobe. And the issue, I tend to agree a little bit more with your stance on people that friends of mine, and almost all of them are former friends of mine, than Maggie. And I understand we all have our history and stuff. And the reason I choose to either, if it's someone that I really never talk politics and we talk once every few years, I'll just say, let's just not go there, because I don't really want to know whether you're going to vote for him or not. But everyone's, well, I'm not a racist, but okay, I'm not saying that you're a racist, but in my opinion, and I am only speaking for Gary Schwartz, myself, if you choose to vote for Donald Trump, you may not be a racist, but it's not a deal breaker for you. Racism is not a deal breaker for you. And that, to me, there's no escaping that. And I don't care. You could say, well, I paid 10% of my taxes that I would normally pay. Okay, fair enough. So what you're telling me is, for money, it might be a lot of money, you're willing to vote for a racist. If somebody, which, as you know, when it's your own people, you get even more angry. And so I'm not religious, but I'm Jewish. And so when I hear Jewish people, unfortunately, I think about 70% of the Jewish people are liberal and Democrats, and they don't like him. But there are this, religious, like modern Orthodox and some of the Hasidic groups that choose to vote for him. And I'm like, well, he's strong on Israel. I'm like, they are being so duped, in my opinion. And even if it was, so I have no problem if an Israeli supports him, if that's what they want to do, but they're Israeli citizens. We are Americans, and we have to look for America first. And that sounds bad, because America first, like Trump. I'm not saying it like that. We have to be concerned at what this demagogue and anti-democrat wants to do to this country for his own personal gain. So I'm going to leave it at that, because I can go on, and I don't want to pontificate.
So Maggie, you have any further thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Gary and I had a conversation about this, about blocking people on Facebook. So I've done that with family members that are religious and continue to support him. And just the family values and what they are believing in is just the opposite. So like I said, it's incomprehensible. One thing I want to say, just a few days ago, one of my favorite artists of all time is a Trump supporter. I think I took everything out of my house. It was so devastating to me. And I will mention his name, Willie Colon. I loved him. I followed him. I mean, Seriously, I was stunned. So I said, okay, let me do a little research on this. Come to find out, his son, had problem with pedophile. I didn't know that. Did he get help from Trump? Did he get help from, they're in that circle, right? They're in that, he's a Grammy Award. He's a very well-known artist. Dismissed him. Don't want anything to do with him. I just feel like he has the power to influence a lot of people, especially the Puerto Rican community, that I was very, very devastated. And I still am, and I will not listen to his music. But that's how strongly I feel about this. And I think everybody should feel like this. I think everybody should really research it. You don't believe what you're hearing? Research it. It's right there in front of you.
Absolutely.
That's right. I think people, for whatever reason, they don't take the time to do the research. And listen, I'm always fact checking. That's just something that I do. Because I want to know. Okay, let me see if what you're saying is correct on this. And I'm a big news buff. I think I watch the news probably online to how much I watch sports, and I love sports. But ever since Trump has been in office, it's been breaking news every single day. Think about that. Every single day that this man has been in office, there has been breaking news every single day. As you were going back talking about Hitler, and I'm a history buff as well. This is what Hitler. I'm sorry, Gary. This is what Hitler did. This is how Hitler started. None of us heard anything about fake news until Trump came along.
That's right.
Everyone throws it out, fake news. He has instilled that in our heads so much to now everyone is just, oh, that's fake news. I don't even use the terminology because it came from him. And so, no, I don't do that. But like you, Maggie, I have certain friends, I have certain music artists who supports him. And I have nothing to do. I have two friends of mine who support Trump. I don't, and here's what, and every time I ask them, why do you do it? They never can give me an answer. They never can give me a straight answer as to why you support this man. It's always something their answer has something to deflect upon what my candidate is not doing. But they never can give me a straight answer as to why do you choose to support a racist? Why do you support, someone that talks about women, degrade women all the time? And my goodness, the way that he has treated women of color is beyond me. Kamala Harris, though, when she finished the debate, she did okay with the debate. But after the debate, oh, she's a monster. She's the worst person ever. She's a communist. And so his base feeds off of everything that he says, which is going to take us into the next little segment. Words have power. Words have power. So now we see a few days ago where our president, he says these little trigger words. So we have a militia group called the Wolverine. I forgot Wolverine something. And this particular militia group had plans to kidnap the governor of Michigan. We just found out yesterday, not only the governor of Michigan, but the governor of Virginia. Now, how this all worked is that, when the state of Michigan, when they were up in East Lansing, they were protesting. They had all these guys up here, guns, the whole 9 yards. Trump was tweeting on the same day, he had on there, liberate Michigan. So he's giving them the green light to do whatever they wanted to do. And the sad part about all this is that since all this has come out, the Attorney General for the United States of America, William Barr, who I think, dude, and I hope that if this ever gets back, you're the worst kind of human being ever, along with Trump. For you not to come out in public to say anything about this, that is just an indictment on your character as a human being, because all of you guys are giving these guys a green light. So, Gary, what was your thoughts when you first saw the news that they were just kidnapping of the governor of Michigan? I know that you basically found out about the governor of Virginia when I mentioned it earlier when we spoke earlier. So, what about when you heard about the governor when she was there was a plan to kidnap?
I mean, I think to underscore what you said, Trump just stating Michigan, liberate yourself. I mean, that says almost everything. However, there's some disturbing ties, and I want to be careful when I say this with law enforcement and the militias in the United States. I'm speaking specifically in Michigan, and there was an article I had been reading, and I forget which news outlet, but they talked about the sheriffs and some of the cozy relationships he had with some of the militia members. And so it's not as though the sheriff's not accused of being part of it, but just the simple, when you don't, it's like we say all the time is, silence is violence. This is the type of thing. If good people don't speak up, and I've had a lot of discussions with police officers, ex-police officers, and I know there's that blue line that they can't cross, they won't cross. But if good cops don't speak out against bad cops like this, then where are we, right? We all want to support the police, and so many of them are good folks, but getting back to that, if you recall, remember the militia members when they went into Lansing, into the Capitol building armed. And I know I'm not the first people have said it, I want white America to imagine that those people were black or brown.
It'd be a bloodbath.
There is absolutely no way the public, if you will, would have stood for it. Trump would have said, we're sending in, that we're going to nationalize the Michigan National Guard. Mm-hmm. We are doing it. There's a coup. There's a takeover by foreigners. It was because they were white, plain and simple. And I'm sure this will get me a few more hate emails and comments from white people, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not backing down anymore. This is the truth. And until America faces that truth, then we're going to just be spinning in circles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maggie?
Well, I think, this is a sign of desperation 3 weeks before the polls. I think it's a sign of the signaling of different areas, and we're probably going to see more of this outrageous behavior. We've already been seeing, them putting fake boxes out here in California, right?
Oh my God!
That's just a form of desperation. They have no idea what to do, or they are trying to distract us in a sense of what this COVID scenario is happening in the White House. They have something in mind to come up with of some excuse, and 3 weeks from now, as this voting being a fraud, even though people are voting by it's quadrupling or even more that we've ever seen before going to the polls. So that's a good thing. So I think all of these things that are happening, and it's like following a little ping pong ball all over the place, and then not really focusing on what's happening in the White House. I think this is part of it. I think it's very sad that they would put Gretchen Whitmer in this part and this type of danger. But it's very appalling, and I think people should start taking these things seriously instead of brushing them off as a norm. And that's all these horrible things have been happening, it is being normalized, and it's not really, okay, that happened, let's move on, what's next? And they're
Yeah.
not really attacking the issue and making an example of these people that are causing this harm.
Yeah.
That is my fear, what's happening
Yeah.
with a lot of all this.
Yeah. And,
So,
you know, and to make matters worse, the day when that news came out, and um, Governor Whitmore, she had spoke, she had a press conference, and she pretty much was saying, you know, hey, listen, a lot of this lays at the blame of Donald Trump, because of the language that he puts out there, the words that he says. And the tweet that he put back out that evening, I just, every time I think I've seen him at his worst, then he just goes a little bit lower. And, you know, he pretty much said, you know, pretty much like you discussed me, you know, I did this, I did this to keep you out of harm's way, and this is the thanks that I get. You had nothing to do with that, but he wanted to take a victory lap. But in with him taking a victory lap, he also wanted to talk down about her, which is even feeding more into the other militia groups that are out there. So that's going to lead us into this other segment that we're going to talk about, which Maggie just said, the voting. So have this this is the biggest election of my life for me personally.
yes.
And because I don't know how the three of us and everyone else, I don't know how we could even possibly endure 4 more years of this. I don't. And I don't want to start thinking what the worst thing could possibly happen to a human being. I don't know how I can stomach 4 more years of Donald J. Trump. So this election it has to be spot on. So Gary, as Maggie said, out here where we are, people have been putting these fake ballot boxes out here. Now, I voted last week, and I went to a legit box, ballot box. You know, state of California, whole 9 yards. But now we have people putting up these boxes up here to confuse people, and I know that's what it's for.
Right.
You know, because they're in desperation mode right now. So, Gary, what are your thoughts about the election, briefly, and then we'll go to Maggie, and we'll touch a different topic, and we'll have to end it. So, go ahead, Gary, and give me what your thoughts is for the election process.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, I read a little bit about the California fiasco that they're investigating and these fake boxes. To me, and I don't want to be dismissive of California and New York. It's kind of like Trump's going to win certain red states. That's it, you know, and Biden's going to win California and New York, pretty much. I mean, barring catastrophe, right?
Right.
So
Right.
what's concerning more to me are places like Georgia and Texas, where the Supreme Court, I don't want to misquote a ruling, but I think it was Texas, excuse me, New York buzzers. Texas actually said that they're going to have one box per county. Now, you look at Dallas, if you're familiar with Dallas or you're familiar with Houston, I mean, we're talking huge, sprawling cities.
Mhm.
And this, to me, is voter suppression. This is where you get these long lines of people wanting to do it because people are panicked. And
Yeah.
think about COVID and the elderly getting there. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. But it's those swing states that are going to decide this election. And so that is even more concerning to me.
Yeah. Maggie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you, Gary, and I also agree. Well, this is why they want to place all these Republicans in the Supreme Court in order to approve this. And it's been really terrifying to watch that, I have to tell you. And the decision to put another one on before the election is completed is just wrong. Period. If it was the other way around, oh my goodness, it would.
Yeah.
You know, and it's I think once this election is said and done, I think it's going to be some kind of, it's going to be a lot of violence. I believe that. Unfortunately, we have to expect the worst. The worst. The voter suppression is just sad to see
Yeah,
people that.
Maggie. Unfortunately,
Mhm. It's
yeah.
hard to see. It's hard to see.
Go ahead, Maggie.
People, oh, sorry. It's hard to see people that are handicapped and elderly in these lines, but thank God that they are really focusing on what is right, and they're sticking to their guns and making their vote count.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, we come out at a victory and see. Like I said, we have to prepare for the worst.
Yeah. And Maggie, you hit it spot on. I do believe, and I hope, and I want to be wrong so bad. God, I
Mhm.
want to be wrong. If Biden wins, I believe that there's going to be an uprising
Yes.
like we have never seen before, because he has put that seed out there and he's been watering it in the whole
Yes.
9 yards. And it's up from the ground. Everybody knows about it now. And, I guess the one thing you can say about Trump, hey, he lets you know exactly how he feels. I guess that's the one positive thing. If you ever want to say something about it, you want someone, you want to know if a person doesn't like you, if they don't like you. You don't want anyone to fake it. He
Well,
hasn't been fake.
I don't think it's a positive thing. I think it's just I think is just a meanness all around, just
Yeah,
in your face. What are you going to do about it?
yeah, yeah. That's the power.
Nothing.
That's,
So,
and his niece. Oh, I
mhm.
love Mary Trump. Oh, she's a fan.
Yes.
His niece talks about him and all the things that I've said about him. She says the same thing. She said, "Hey, they come from a family. They hate to lose. They don't like losing at all." And she's even said that he's not going to take it very, very well. So let's end it on this note right here. So, real quick, Gary, you can come off of mute now, Gary. You're good. So, real quick, give me your current racial climate update. What do you think about what's going on right now? Give it to us really quick. We have like about maybe 4 minutes left.
You know what? I hate to say it, but Trump is probably the best thing that ever happened to this country for race relations. And I know that's counterintuitive, but it's lifted the rocks up, and the bugs, the cockroaches are scrambling. They're going. It has brought white and black and brown together more than anyone else could have, because you just realize, hey, we're allies in this fight. And so in terms of the racial climate, yeah, it's quite disturbing. But white supremacy was around long before Trump. And so this is just kind of, he's just given it that boost of energy to come out. So to be honest, as much as I despise and loathe him, he's really caused us to come together in many ways.
Yeah. All right, Maggie, you have the final word on this.
I think we have to unite, and I think they are in fear mode of people of color, and that's a good thing. So let them be in fear mode, because that's what you're seeing right now. And I want people to our side to try to stay calm and smart and go for the win. So I'm hoping that all this racial tension is never going to end overnight, but I think is a great beginning of people, and it shows in the voting. So people of color are going out to vote. Is no more of trying to suppress us. They can try, but I think a lot of people, the mentality and the word has gotten out, and I give the Democrats kudos to that, because I think they've done a great job at getting people to vote and really listen if they want change.
That's great. Well, listen, you go. Oh boy, the two of you guys have been amazing. We have to do this again. We definitely have to do this again.
Thank you.
So listen, Gary, let everyone know how they can follow you on your social media outlet.
All right. So Lancer Allies. We have an Instagram page at Lancer Allies. We also have a Facebook group called Lancer Allies. If you'd like to join, send us a request to join, and also lancerallies.com. We have a lot of public information like leaders and everything, Ida B. Wells, Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, all these people. It's just to kind of understand what we're doing and trying to bring different racial groups and religions together.
That's great. And Maggie, how can we find you on your social media outlets?
Same way, Instagram, Onelia Magazine, and oneliamagazine.com, at Onelia Magazine, is Onelia. Yeah, I love to hear from you guys. Subscribe, you're supporting a mission, and any type of ideas that you guys might have, supporting artists as well. We're definitely open to that.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, thank you all for being on the show today. And on my website, which is www.pickaside.org, we do have a feature for Maggie on the website, as well as you guys will be able to find a pass feature that Gary has on the website as well. So thank you so very much, and we will definitely be keeping in contact. I feel like I've gained a new friend with you, Maggie. I'm so very thankful for you being able to do that. And Gary, I certainly appreciate, man, the mission that you've been on since the last show that you and I have done. You have several of good friends of mine that are now part of the Lancer Allies. I just had a good friend of mine yesterday that reached out to me and asked me about your organization. So keep up the good work. I love the fact that you are bringing races of all together, and that you are binding them together. One person here, one person there, they have to come together. I think that's just excellent, man. It's like, you're making a cake and you're putting all these different ingredients in there, and it comes out very, very well. So I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. Please continue that work, and don't let anyone discourage you in doing it. So I'm going to end the show what I always say: keep God first place in your life. He take you places that you never dreamed of. Thank you guys for doing this, and we'll touch bases with you on the other side. Pick a Side Nation. I want to thank you for tuning in, and listen out for the next show, which will be coming up shortly. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for tuning in to another episode of the Pick a Side podcast. And I hope that you guys can always remember to please like, share, and subscribe to our show. Your support is so very crucial to keep things going. And we want to make sure that we can get those numbers up to a point where no one will be able to match them. So thank you so very much. And stay tuned for the next episode that we'll be having. It will be coming up very, very shortly. Take care. Hope to see you guys on the other side. Take care now. Bye-bye.